All right, so starting this documentary, first day.
First day, all right.
What's the biggest message you want to give to your audience?
Biggest message would be like nothing's impossible and everything's possible, and you basically just gotta like work for it. That's the main thing.
Let me tell you one thing about me. 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 One thing about me is I stay on my grind and I get to the cash. One thing about me is I keep moving forward, I ain't looking back. One thing about me is I keep on evolving, I keep moving fast. One thing about me is I'm taking the lead cause I keep coming last. This life is crazy, this shit is a dream, and I can't never go in between. So I fully develop my mind to be able to see the unseen. I'll be damned if I'm caught in the matrix. I'm a leader, I can't be ashamed. Thought I told you I'm done with the talking, cause they telling me talking is cheap. I know it's gonna take time, but I ain't got no more time to waste. Never worry about where I'm going, I know I'll eventually find a way. Never stressing about getting money, cause I'ma get that in all kind of ways. Ain't got no time to be sleeping, cause I got these dreams that I'm trying to chase. One thing about me is I stay on my grind and I get to the cash. One thing about me is I keep moving forward, I ain't looking back. One thing about me is I keep on evolving, I keep moving fast. One thing about me is I'm taking the lead cause I can't come in last. Everybody wanna stand out, I'd rather blend in like a million. Never kiss me with my hand out, cause I'm trying to count up these millions. I just keep on going.
So the day before is obviously night before you can't eat or drink. You can only drink when it gets closer to the operation. So you can't eat up until the operation and after. So when it comes to the operation itself, it's not really a physical thing. It's more mental. It's mental because like it's painful afterwards. And going into it, it's basically like you don't know. I know what to expect, but if a random person were to need surgery like out of nowhere, they wouldn't know. Now I'm used to it because I've been through so much. I've been through 19 surgeries. I know how it feels. So since I know how it feels, it's 19, so I'm used to it by now. Anyway, when it comes to after the operation, normally it's painful, but when you first get out of the OR and they bring you back up to your room, it's not painful because you're on so many meds that it really doesn't, you don't feel anything, but you don't feel most of the pain. Now, when it comes to like rehab and pain, when you put those two together, it doesn't really go well because you're in pain while you're doing rehab, but the rehab helps with the pain and also with you getting stronger. So they put it this way. They basically say, okay, rehab will take 1 to 2, at the most 3 months with inpatient. Now, after the operation, they do rehab, and then however long they decide to do rehab for, they send you home. Once they send me home, it's basically resting up at home and outpatient rehab. And after that, it's mainly I'm all healed up by then. I mean, by then it's 3 months in the hospital, maybe 2-3 months of outpatient rehab, and I feel good after that. That would be 19 in total. I have 2 in November. I actually had an appointment on September 1st to get cleared. There's no date yet, but as far as we're shooting for, they said November. They gave us 3 options. They said you can either do it this past summer, you can do it later on during the school year, or you can do it now during the holidays. But basically what they're gonna do is they're extending my heel cord, extending my quads, and making both of my feet go straighter, like straight instead of like slanted out. That's basically what they're gonna do. They said inpatient rehab would be 3 months, but I recover quick, so I'm like not really worried about it. I'm more scared for the pain afterwards. But yeah, they're calling this the last 2 surgeries, so that's the only upcoming surgeries that I have. Physically is basically like surgeries, honestly. One of them is surgeries. Another thing is, I didn't start walking around my house without my walker till like around 9 years old. My brother helped a lot with that. But yeah, basically it would be walking around the house. That was mainly when I was younger. Now it's not really a problem. Now my main physical challenge is surgeries with like the rehab that they do. They call it intense rehab, which it's not really intense, it's just to get me healed up and back on my feet quicker. But that's one of the main challenges. Another challenge is like sports, obviously, with not really being able to do some sports that I want. But that's mainly what the challenges are physically. Mentally is, like I said before, surgery is just the main thing. I thought that like in school it would be mentally challenging with other kids, but it's really not. It's more mental with surgeries, and those are the 3 or 2 main things that are physically and mentally challenging for me. Main source of motivation is honestly, my friends motivate me to work harder. Family motivates me to work harder. My brother's a big part of that because he's the one who helped me like get to where I am today. And honestly, like surprisingly, one of the main motivations is my surgeries, because when I go into surgery, it's like I know obviously I'm gonna be okay. Sometimes I'm more scared than others, but honestly, the main motivation for surgeries is like the comeback and impact afterwards and how it affects me. But that's really the main motivation I have. My main role model, like I said before, is my brother. Main reason for that is when I was it was about 9 years old. It was my first leg surgery. They basically said, you get this leg surgery, you'll be okay. If you don't get this leg surgery, you're not walking in high school. So we said, no, we're not gonna get this. We're not gonna not walk in high school. I'm gonna walk in high school. I'm gonna get this surgery done. So basically, after surgery, I was in cast from like my hamstrings down or something like that. I don't even remember. But the main reason why he's my role model is because, first of all, he's been with me through most of or all of the surgeries. And the second thing is that he basically, when I was like 8, 9 years old, the reason why I'm able to walk around the house without my walker as of now is because when I was younger in our old house, he basically said, okay, get up, walk a few steps. I would fall on the ground. It was carpet, so I didn't hurt myself. Walk a few steps, fall on the ground. Walk a few steps, fall on the ground. Now that was in my room. My room was small at the time. Now we eventually moved to the living room and kept doing it to the point where one day I was walking from living room couch to living room couch, all around the house, up and down the hallways. And he's the main reason why I am what I am today. So he's my biggest role model. I don't remember what team this was against, but it was 8th grade. Now during track, I would run the 100-meter dash and shot put. So 8th grade, it was 8th grade. I don't remember the team, but basically all my 100 meters will be either a minute or over. So this one was actually under a minute. This one was like 54 seconds or something like that. I don't remember the times, or it was around there. And honestly, the next track meet after that, I was trying to go for like a 46.9, but I never got it because the season ended. But that was basically my favorite track meet. Honestly, favorite thing about track is just the energy with friends. and the coaches. Middle school was like where the energy and fun was, and that's why my favorite thing about track is like the energy and with my friends. But like high school track was not really like, it's not my favorite at all, because it just, the coaches were strict for no reason. The kids were like, just, they weren't really doing what they were supposed to, and it just wasn't fun. So middle school is mainly my favorite thing about track. It was like my whole middle school career. Goals that I've met are like obviously learning how to walk when I was younger. Surgeries are obviously like goals for me, because once I'm done with them, like it probably doesn't really make sense, but goals for me like are mainly the surgeries, because once I'm done with them, once I'm like, the goal for me during a surgery is doing the rehab, healing up, and getting out of the hospital. That's the main goal for me during surgeries. Now, main goals in general is I want to go to college. I want to be a motivational speaker after high school. I started my freshman year. It's been a goal for me ever since. And basically, those are my goals. Going to college, pursuing motivational speaking, eventually becoming a social worker, and rehab in hospital is mainly a goal for me too, and that's about it. Those are all my goals. Yes, I actually do. I started my motivational speaking career in 9th grade, so my freshman year of high school. I'm now a senior, but I started in freshman year. I did a motivational speech at Helen Ford Middle School in 2019, June 14th, 2019 to be exact. It was 3 different gym classes, same speech for each class. It was only 3 of them. I only had like a month to practice, so I literally had to like get it down packed and get it done. So basically, yeah, I'm hoping to continue after high school. I've been working on it ever since. So yeah, basically I'm trying to work on it after high school. Well, not really, because when it comes to my disability, I don't look at myself as different. I look at myself as, okay, I can't play some sports that other kids can, but other than that, I'm no different than anybody else. So I really don't see myself as different, and I don't see it as hard to make friends. I mean, of course, I just moved to a new school, so that's kind of hard, but I mean, it's not really hard at all, no. September 14, 2004 is when I was born. 90 days in the hospital. It was basically, it should have been a C-section. They were supposed to do a C-section. They waited too long. I was basically breached. It was head first, I think. Pretty much head first. They waited too long, which is why I have a disability. And going into like impacting with like life-changing experiences with my disability is basically the head is the main part, and for that reason is I have a VP shunt. The VP shunt is basically a tube that goes from here all the way down to my stomach. It drains all the fluids out of my body, and also another part of it is my legs, obviously. So my legs are not straight. They're basically out like this. So they're out, they're not in. Then that's part of it. And then you got, my first surgery was 2014. So they basically broke my right ankle to make it straight. They extended my heel cords, extended my hamstrings, and basically put screws in my right ankle. They didn't do anything with the left because at the time my right was more out than my left. So they just messed with the left and didn't really do anything with the right. Then at the time I was in the hospital for about 3 months. I think it was like 3 months. They did inpatient rehab. And then eventually got out of the hospital. They did outpatient rehab. that was around fourth or fifth grade. So by that time, school had already like started. I ended up doing track in March. Made it on the news. They did, the newspaper and the news came out for that. So that's mainly the start of track and like life changing with cerebral palsy and my first surgery. That's mainly how it went. So first three surgeries mainly. So first surgery was at birth when they messed everything up with the shunt and everything. So he did that. Years later, which is about, I was born in 2004, so like 10, 11 years later, they did leg surgery, which they did everything on my legs, the right ankle, the hamstrings, the heel cords, the rehab in the hospital, the rehab outpatient. Shortly after that, I did track for my 6th grade year. Newspaper came out, went on the news, and then last track meet of the season actually, which I honestly think is funny. So I did the full, I think it was like the full 100 meter, because at times I did, it wasn't really till like the end of 7th or like start of 7th where I did the full 100 meter, but like 6th grade was the 50 meters, so I started at 50 and then progressed my way back till eventually I got to 100. So it was 50 meters, it was the last track meet of season, 6th grade. So I basically was running and my right wheel on the walker turned the wrong way. I kicked the wheel with my right leg and the whole walker flipped over. The whole walker flipped over and I basically fell on my face.
Come on, Buddha, catch him, Buddha, catch him, Buddha, catch him.
My boy's moving, big fella.
Scraped my elbow, hit my knee. I didn't hit my head, which is good. So that happened, got up, finished the race. Then going on to 7th grade, I ended up going back. I think we went to like 65, 70 meters. Ran that. Still, my times were over a minute. Towards middle of 7th, we were probably at a good 80, 85 meters. Ran that. Still, times were over a minute. Now, at the end of 7th is when we really started getting the hundreds. Now, my hundreds were way over a minute for a whole bunch of like my 8th grade season. It wasn't really till like the end of my 8th grade season where they said, okay, you're gonna do the 100. Well, it was really my decision. I said, okay, I want to do the 100. Now, like I said before, last track meet of the season was, don't remember what team it was. It was a 50, I think it was like a 54 or something, maybe a little lower. I don't remember any of my times from middle school track, but I wanted to go for like a 46.9, but that never happened. Now, in between 7th and 8th grade, I had my first brain surgery. So it was basically, the whole problem with the shunt is that the fluid builds up over time. I never really know when it happened. I mean, I know when it happens. It's just, it happens out of nowhere. You can't really plan if it happens. So basically what it does, it fills up, then it causes pressure to the brain. Then as it causes pressure to the brain, it's like migraine, it's like immediate migraines, vomiting, light sensitivity. Now as soon as that happens, I go to the hospital, they do surgery, drain it out. So that happened during 7th and 8th. That happened like probably twice during 7th and 8th. So that's mainly my first 3 surgeries and my middle school career for track. Now we're heading into high school, which freshman year obviously. Now let me just say this is the fastest 4 years of my life. Everybody would tell me that it would go by fast. It has. I'm a senior now. School started September, so I'm like, it went by fast. Now, freshman year was my final year at Pemberton, final year with Pemberton track in general, whether it was high school or middle school. Now, I said before that middle school was fun and enjoyable because of the energy and the coaches and stuff. High school, on the other hand, was not. High school was sort of fun, not really, because like freshman year, to be exact, wasn't really like too crazy because the coaches weren't like, they were really aggressive, which I get it, they're high school coaches, but still, you're really aggressive. The other kids weren't really wanting to be at practice. They were not bringing any energy. The coaches were barely bringing energy. It just wasn't enjoyable freshman year. The freshman year was basically, school ended in June, obviously. Now, June 14th of 2019 was when my motivational career started. That was my first motivational speech. It was 3 different lunch classes, the same speech for 3 classes. So basically, it was I had a computer set up in front of me with a table. Now the computer was only for reference. I didn't look at it and read off the computer. So basically, I did the speech off of like what I was talking about, which is my story, obviously. And I wasn't looking at the computer. So basically, I'm just looking at them talking. Now, when it came to it being done, I walked out to school like, what did I just do? Like, I didn't know what to even think. Now the kids were going crazy. A 7th grade girl cried. I didn't know that until after it was done. And that was the end of freshman year. Now, August 2019, I ended up going to the hospital for a shunt replacement, like the tubing replacement. It was a tubing replacement because I go to this appointment every 6 months. They basically do like x-rays and checkups to see and do have you walk, see how I'm walking, stuff like that. So they did the x-rays, saw that the tubing was disconnected, which at the time I was 14. They said, okay, you might want to get it checked out. Now, it was like start of the summer, like beginning of August, middle of August, end of August, somewhere around there. They basically said, okay, it's disconnected, you might want to get it checked out, you might want to get surgery for it. So they did surgery. They basically put a whole new tubing in, and they put it obviously back from my head to my stomach. So I went home. They sent me home the same day, which with a brain surgery, they never send me home the same day. They always keep me at least one night. So they say, okay, you're free to go home. Now, they said you're free to go home. We're like, okay. I go home. My stomach looks swollen where they put the tubing at in my stomach. They said, okay, it's swollen. As he moves around, it'll unravel. That's what they thought. So they thought, okay, it'll unravel on its own. So it turns out that 7 days later, the shunt had failed again. It malfunctioned. That's vomiting, light sensitivity, headache. So right back to the hospital. They went in, did whatever they had to do, but when they went into the stomach area to try to fix whatever they had to fix, they poked it and they punctured the intestine in my stomach, which left an infection, which they ended up closing up the wound with the infection in there. Then they basically sent me back up. My stomach was like bloated with infection, obviously. They said, okay, it's gas, he has to walk it out. As he walks it out, he'll fart it out, and that's basically what they said. So the next morning, I couldn't, that night I couldn't eat. So they said, okay, in the morning, they said, you can eat. Now that night, I was walking in pain because they said I had to walk it out. So I'm already walking in pain as it is. So they said, walk it out and you should be good. Now, next morning I ate. Now, I ate whatever I wanted because they told me I can eat, and I didn't eat the night before. So I ate whatever I wanted. 30 minutes later, I'm throwing up black, and the nurse comes in and says, we don't know what that is. Take it down to the lab. Ordered a CAT scan at 3:30 in the afternoon. Didn't get the CAT scan until 11:30 at night. By 1:30 in the morning, they said, doctor is back on his way here. We have to get him prepped and ready for emergency surgery. This is at 1:30 in the morning. Surgery was about 3 hours. They said, okay, you can go told my parents, okay, you can go see your child. It was like 4 in the morning. You can go see your child on the 4th floor. Okay. They didn't say the 4th floor was ICU. They said you can go to the 4th floor. Went to the 4th floor. I'm tubed up like crazy. Parents don't know what to do. They're freaking out. The doctors are like literally act like they didn't know what they were doing. So at that point, my mom snaps on them, says, "What are you doing?" Like, my son wasn't like this when he first came in here. Now, I was in a coma for, I don't remember how long, but I was in a coma. They basically, I think I was there for I was at Cooper and Camden for about a week. 2 weeks. They said, okay, we want to do surgery to close it back up. Now, at that time, we were like, no, take them back. Take them to a different hospital. Now, at that point, we demanded a transfer. They transferred me to the Children's Hospital Philadelphia in Philly. They said, now they gave us one of the best doctors in the hospital. They said, we don't want to do surgery right away because his stomach is inflamed. They don't want to mess with it. Let it settle. Then we'll go in and do whatever we have to do. So they basically put a PICC line right here, and it went from right here all the way to my heart. Couldn't really do much because it's IV and you can't really mess with it. So they did that, did a mini procedure, put that in, and then they put a temporary ostomy bag right here on my stomach. There's actually scars right here. Then they put a temporary one in, and then let the infection go through it, and then not the whole infection, but most of it go through it, and then they did surgery to put a permanent one on. They put a permanent one on. Now, during that time, the shunt was constantly getting taken out, put back in, taken out. And when they take it out, they put a temporary one in. So basically, they said, okay, we're gonna take this out, because if we don't take this out, he's gonna get an infection. It's gonna be, they said, meningitis, he'll die. Because the infection was going up to my head at that point, or was going to. So they said, okay, take it out. Kept taking it out, put it back in, take it out, put it back in. Ended up spending my birthday in the hospital, which was the 14th of September of that year. Then the shunt kept getting taken out, put it back in. Then at the time, they ended up putting a new one in. They put a new one in, let it sit. Now the new one was basically, they took a magnet, put it on my head, put another magnet on top of that magnet, which I couldn't feel any of it. And they twisted it, which when they twist it, it lowers the pressure of the headaches when the shunt fails. So it was September 20, I think it was like September 26th. They said, my mom went to my brother's football game. It was me, my dad, and his niece. So all three of us were just there. She was already headed towards the game. And basically, the shunt failed. We ended up seeing signs early in the morning. It wasn't really bad at first. It was a little bit of light sensitivity, a little bit of headache, and then called the nurse in. They said, do you want to get a CAT scan? They told me, they said, do you want to get a CAT scan? I said, yes. Now, before then, they would always, now with the PICC line in, they said, okay, we got to give them a white bath, basically wipe me down. Then they said, we got to change the sheets. So my dad picked me up to get me off the bed, change the sheets, helped him change the sheets. As soon as he put me on the chair, it got worse. So that's when they called the nurse in, asked for a CAT scan. She asked me, I said yes, figure out what was going on. Now, the nurse comes in, changes the shunt number for the pressure on it, which I didn't know until she told me that it doesn't take effect right away. It takes about, I think she said like 4 hours or a little bit, like a couple hours for it to go down. Now, a couple hours later, it got worse. Then it ended up being cold blue. All the nurses and doctors rushed into that one room, got me into the pre-op room, trying to get my attention, ended up having a seizure. Now at the time, my mom was, the game was over. They said my brother's family was like, okay, do you want to go out to eat? She was like, no, let's I'm gonna go back home because I had to be back in the hospital in the morning. I had to go home, wash clothes, blankets, so I could see Jamir in the morning. So as soon as she found out that it was cold blue, she literally did a U-turn and went to the hospital. They figured out what was going on. They went in, did the surgery, fixed it. They took the shunt out again, which ended up being a blood clot. They had to wait for the blood to drain. Once the blood drained, they put the new one back in. Now when they put the new one back in, that's when the nurse came back up to my room and was like, "I'm sorry." She said, "I'm sorry. I should have changed it earlier," which it's not her fault. I said, "It's not your fault. Nobody knew this was gonna happen." So that ended up happening. That was my last surgery. I ended up going home October 4th. It was a 50-day hospital stay, 8 surgeries in 50 days. Now in December, I had the ostomy bag for about 2 months. Went home October 4th. They scheduled the surgery for December 5th. So they said, December 5th, we can get the bag taken off, do surgery to get it removed. Now, when I had the bag, you would have to change it like every 2 or 3 days. 1, 2, 3 days. Honestly, they said 3 days. They said it can hold up to 3 days, but there was times where it only lasted 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It was basically trial and error. So they said that it was trial and error. We had to constantly change it. Basically, that was it. I mean, December, they took it off. And then, now when they took the shunt out during the 50-day hospital stay, and they put the new one in, there was an old piece of the shunt in my neck, and they said, "Okay, we can't take this out. We're only gonna take it out if we need to because we don't want to infect the other one, the new one." So June 2020, they told me you have to get surgery and get it removed. So that wasn't really a big deal for me. I wasn't really that scared because they said it had to get removed because at the time there was a bruise like right here on my chest, and they said, "Okay, it's a lump there." It was swollen at the time. It was like sore, so they said, "Okay, maybe a scar tissue." We didn't really know what it was. Now, at the time, there was like a hole in it, and it was pus coming out. So they said, "Okay, bring him in." Now, at the time, this was an on-call doctor, not my doctor that I've been seeing. He said it was an on-call doctor. He said, "All right, bring him in. We'll do surgery." 7 a.m. the next morning, my actual surgeon called and said, "No, this is not mandatory. This is a minor situation. Don't bring him in. We'll schedule it." We said, "Okay." We scheduled it, got that removed, and then that was mainly it with the 50-day hospital stay. Sophomore year was basically, I got out of the hospital December, so got that done. June, got that done. Now, those 2 surgeries, that whole situation was done. So September, transferred to a new school, Seneca High School, totally different school. Knew none of the kids. Didn't really know what to expect because I'd never been to a new school. I've been at Pemberton all my life. So basically, didn't know what to expect. Now, going into the school, I didn't feel like I was gonna be different. Like I knew I'm not different from anybody else, so that really didn't affect me. The main thing was trying to make new friends at a whole new school, in a whole new area that I've never really been at. So I did track sophomore year, which that was actually only 1 or 2 practices. The coaches didn't really know. They didn't know me. One of them did because we had gym class together, but both of the coaches didn't really know me as far as what I could do. They knew me personally, but they didn't know what I could do. So we're trying to figure out what I could do, asking me what I could do. Now, one thing Seneca does that Pemberton doesn't do is basically they do everything as a team, which Pemberton doesn't really do that. Pemberton does, all the kids do their own stuff, and their own events. So, I mean, Seneca does their own events, but the kids just do they practice all together. So basically, my dad came to a practice, shout out to him, just gonna put that out there. he came to a practice and basically told the coaches what I was capable of doing. And then from that point on, the coaches were like, okay, this is what he can do. My mom came to a practice. They also got information from her on what I could do. But yeah, so both of my parents told them what I could do. And then unfortunately, from that point on, COVID had hit, which COVID affected me because, first of all, it affected my high school career in general, because now I can say that I haven't really had a high school career because COVID ruined everything. But virtual schooling and COVID, it wasn't really like I really thought it was going to be easy when it first started, but it really wasn't. It wasn't easy. It's definitely gotten easier over time because I'm kind of used to it now. But at the same time, I'm home, waking up early. At home is not really my thing. I'm not an early person. I can't wake up at 7:30 in the morning, get in front of a computer, and just do school. I can't. I'm better off waking up at 5:30 in the morning for regular school and doing it that way. Which COVID with classes, the teachers were kind of like more. They weren't more lenient. Some of them were, most of them weren't. And the reason for that is I guess the teachers, I mean, obviously in the spring of 2020, we were all getting used to it. It was basically an emergency situation. They said, okay, emergency, we're going virtual, basically. Nobody really knew what to expect. None of the teachers knew, none of the teachers were prepared, which that went crazy for everybody. Now going into junior year, we were still virtual. They didn't really lift anything as far as like guidelines saying we can go back to school. Now what they did do is they did hybrid, so half the kids were at home, half the kids were in school. So I was one of the kids that were at home, and I was at home the whole time. I didn't want to go in school because I didn't want to like catch COVID or anything. I mean, it wasn't only that, it was just a lot going back to school and everything. But anyway, being at home was really a challenge for me because I'm not used to it, not used to being home in front of a computer during school. Now, we're hoping that senior year we're back in school. I'm hoping, honestly, that senior year is back in school because I really want to enjoy my senior year and be what I'm trying to do what high school is meant to be. I want to go to prom. I want to graduate. I want to go to prom. I want to be in school for everything. I don't want to have to like be in front of a computer the whole time. Now, we are supposed to be in school. September, supposed to be in school. And then November, I'm having surgery again. Now, what they're doing with this surgery is they're basically doing the same thing they did from before. They're breaking both my ankles this time, straightening them out, extending my heel cords, hamstrings, and extending my quads also. That's another thing they're doing. Now, from that point on, they're doing 3 months inpatient rehab, outpatient rehab, and then I'm back in school. So I don't know how long that's going to take. I'll probably be back January, February. But honestly, I'm like a little scared about it, but I'm not like really worried about it because I'm not really going to miss much. November, December, January, you're not doing much. I'm going to miss the holidays, but I don't really care about that because I can get those back. I can't get prom and graduation back. But altogether, I hope senior year is going to be a good year, and COVID and how it's affected me was crazy. Now, me and my brother were talking about, obviously he's in college, and he really wanted me to start figuring out what I wanted to do. So he was like, you need to start figuring out what you want to do. He said, you want to tell your story? All right, make a YouTube channel out of it. So from that point on, I made the YouTube channel, started uploading. Now, at the time, my uploading schedule it was sporadically, really whenever I wanted to. And all that was made off my phone. All the videos were made off my phone. Now, I can say that now it's grew to I'm editing off a MacBook now. My videos are a lot better. I've actually started uploading weekly every Friday. So that's really how it is. And then videos are still going out every Friday. When it comes to November and that operation, I'm still going to be going with to the hospital with my computer. I plan on recording rehab sessions, check-up videos to see how I'm doing, day-in-the-life videos of rehab sessions of day-in-the-life of like the surgery itself, like post-surgery, from the day that I go in, but no, the night before I go in to the day I leave is what I really want to do. So basically a second documentary, if you will, put it that way. Basically, it's going to be a second documentary. They're going to be all separate videos, but eventually I'm going to take it from the day I go in to the day I leave, put it all together into one documentary. So that's going to be another documentary that I'm dropping. But honestly, when it comes to that, that's going really well. I'm almost at 400 subs. I'm trying to get to 1K. So help me out. Help somebody out. Come on now, I need it. But anyway, you got that. And then, honestly, the end of the story is just, it's been a long ride, to be honest. It's 19 surgeries. November's going to make it 21. That's not really the end of the story. It's more like where I am today. So a lot of motivation has been put towards that. And then as far as what's next, basically, I plan on becoming a social worker. I plan on actually continuing my motivational speaking career, looking at colleges. I've looked at Newman University in PA. I've looked at TCNJ. I've looked at Stockton, colleges like that. I'm actually looking at Eastern University over in Philly. So still trying to obviously stay local, close to home. I'm also trying to stay close to the hospitals that I go to just in case anything ever happens. But that's really it. That's really the whole documentary, my life. And let me tell y'all this. Anything's possible. Don't ever think it's not. And nothing's impossible. Just keep going. If you got something that you want to do, set it and go for it. Don't let that stop you. People get in your way, okay, so what? Just keep going past it. People say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. You're running track, you're not fast enough to do this. Playing football, you can't do this. Who cares? Don't let it. Take this documentary as, don't let anything stop you, and just keep going. That's it. That's the whole documentary. That's it.
Yeah, baby, tell me where you wanna go, I could probably take you there. Just pick a location, baby, we can land right there. When I'm with you, I don't pay attention to what's over there. Just me and you, let's go, we can be anywhere. Yeah, we can fly away. We just need a destination. I set myself apart, I don't do nothing basic. I don't know, tell me where you wanna go. We can be there by tomorrow. We don't have to stick around here, we can move out. Pick a destination, baby. Where you wanna go, we can go now. In the car, on the plane, no matter. We can make it happen by any means. What I say comes true, I manifest when I speak. I've been locked in for fucking years, way before I knew Ricky. I didn't even know that fucker was here. Now you can't beat this duo, cause we're not the type to fear. Got M's on hands loaded, we gon' have to buy a lead. But tell me where you wanna go, I could probably take you there. Just pick a location, baby, we can land right there. When I'm with you, I don't pay attention to what's over there. Just me and you, let's go, we can be anywhere. Yeah, we can fly away. We just need a destination. I set myself apart, I don't do nothing basic. I don't know, tell me where you wanna go. We can be there by tomorrow. Tell me what's been sitting on your conscience. Anything you don't like, remove them. We don't wanna hear about your problems, cause everyone's dealing with something. How does you matter the picture, see the whole canvas. And don't touch the paint when it's drying, that's when you start to do damage. And this is just my story, you don't have to listen, I just spit down these recordings. Woke up breathing music since some motherfucking morning. I promise you if I say I'll take you there, then I will. Baby, tell me where you wanna go.